the predator that ruled the stars. The galaxy had seen many predators, but none like the Xyrrath. Legends of them were whispered across the stars, creatures that moved like shadows, armored in hides thicker than tank plating, with 4 hooked arms strong enough to shear through bulkheads. They were said to be born from the darkest corners of hostile worlds, worlds where even the atmosphere itself was poison and where life thrived only by killing faster, hungrier, and without mercy. To most species, the Xyrrath were not just predators. They were inevitability. The Veyari, a people of scholars and builders, learned this truth too late. Their colony of Avesh Prime had been proud, a jewel of white spires and crystalline domes nestled beside a river that shimmered silver beneath the twin suns. The Veyari had never needed weapons. Their minds had been their greatest defense, and their technology was devoted to exploration, culture, and art. When the Xyrrath came, all that brilliance crumbled like glass under a storm. The first attacks were like lightning strikes. Settlements at the edge of the forest went silent. Patrol drones showed nothing but smears of blood and claw marks gouged into steel. Then came the night raids. Families were torn from their homes, their screams echoing through the colony's calms before silence swallowed them whole. The Veyari military council assembled in desperation. "We cannot fight them," one admiral admitted. "Our weapons do not pierce their hides. Our scanners cannot track them in the jungle. Every tactic we employ, they adapt to." And so the truth emerged. The Veyari were prey. The Galactic Council, contacted for aid, deliberated only long enough to issue condolences. No species dared intervene. The memory of the Arishta extinction still burned. An entire people wiped out in less than a year after trying to resist the Xyrrath. "We cannot risk the same," the council concluded. "The Veyari are lost. The wisest course is to preserve ourselves." The decision was final. The galaxy turned its back. But in the cracks of despair, whispers spread of a species too reckless to fear, too stubborn to run. A species that had survived toxic skies, ice ages, nuclear fire, and wars of their own making. They were called humans, and in the polished tongues of the council, they were known as the Mad Ones. The Veyari elder, Xyrrath, was old enough to remember humanity's first fumbling steps into interstellar politics. He recalled how other ambassadors laughed at the species that still carried scars of ancient wars, still bore weapons on their ships even in times of peace, still dove headlong into dangers that wiser species avoided. And yet, humans endured. Always. When the council abandoned them, Xyrrath did not send his final plea to his allies. He sent it to Earth. The message was simple, raw, and desperate. "We are dying. The Xyrrath hunt us. No one will help us. They say only humans would dare. If the rumors of your courage are true, prove them now. Save us, or we will vanish." For many days, there was no answer. The colony fell deeper into ruin. Entire districts lay empty, echoing with silence. Fires smoldered in abandoned markets. The scent of fear was thick in the air. Even the skies seemed darker. Then, one morning, the Veyari woke to a message that pulsed across every surviving comms tower. The language was blunt, unadorned, and carried the weight of a promise carved in stone. "We heard you. We're coming." The words spread like wildfire through the colony. Some wept, others laughed bitterly. Could fragile humans, with their soft bodies and reckless bravado, stand against the Xyrrath? It seemed impossible, but to the Veyari, it was a lifeline in the dark. That night, as the jungle roared with alien cries and unseen shadows circled their dwindling defenses, Elder Xyrrath gazed up at the stars. For the first time since the nightmare began, hope flickered in his chest. Perhaps madness was exactly what they needed. The madmen arrived. To the Veyari, the human's reputation was little more than a frightening tale, one often told in council chambers as a warning. Do not provoke them. Do not follow their ways. They are reckless, irrational, dangerous even to themselves. Yet when the human fleet broke through the clouds of Avesh Prime, the Veyari gathered in silence and awe. Their ships were unlike anything the colony had seen before. They were not sleek, crystalline constructs like Veyari cruisers, nor elegant latticeworks like the ships of the Xyrrath. Instead, the human vessels looked like blunt weapons hurled through space. Angular hulls armored in layered plating, bristling with cannons and missile bays. Where other species built ships for beauty or efficiency, humans built theirs for war. The Veyari elders trembled. If these were the saviors they had pinned their hopes upon, perhaps salvation itself wore the mask of madness. The humans wasted no time. Dropships roared down into the battered colony, belching flame and dust. Soldiers emerged in squads, clad in matte black armor marked with crimson insignia, their visors glowing faintly in the dusk. Their leader, Commander Hale, strode forward with the calm intensity of one who had seen wars that defied description. "You asked for help," he said, his voice carried through a translator. "You've got it. Now tell me everything you know about these things hunting you." The Veyari exchanged uneasy glances. Their scientists stepped forward with trembling hands, projecting data of the Xyrrath, their size, their speed, their strength. The humans studied it with unnerving calm. One soldier even whistled softly. "Big bastards," he muttered, "but not invincible." The words shocked the Veyari. Not invincible? Their own weapons had shattered uselessly against the predator's hides. What could these humans see that they could not? Commander Hale outlined their strategy. "We're not going to fight them like soldiers. We'll fight them like predators. That means traps, misdirection, ambushes, and overwhelming force at the right time. We'll need bait." The Veyari recoiled. "Bait?" one of them asked. "Us," a human sniper replied, casually, checking the sights of his rifle. "They'll come for us. They always do." The Veyari could hardly comprehend it. Humans were volunteering to draw the monsters onto themselves? To invite death for the sake of the hunt? Madness. Utter madness. Within hours, the colony transformed. The humans worked with brutal efficiency, wiring entire districts with explosives, turning alleys into killing zones, and setting up automated turrets camouflaged among ruins. Drones scouted the jungle, while soldiers carried crates of sharpened spikes, heavy flamethrowers, and rail cannons that hummed with terrifying energy. The Veyari watched in silent disbelief. Where they saw only terror in the encroaching jungle, the humans saw opportunity. Where they saw death, the humans saw challenge. That night, a group of Veyari dared to follow one of the human squads into the edge of the forest. They expected fear, perhaps prayers to some human deity. Instead, they found the soldiers laughing quietly, swapping stories, and painting strange markings on their armor. Symbols of fallen comrades, snarling beasts, or phrases like "kill" or "be killed." To the Veyari, it was incomprehensible. To humans, it was ritual. When one of the aliens finally asked them why they would risk themselves for strangers, the answer was simple. "Because no one else would," a soldier said, "and because something that thinks it's the apex predator needs reminding that it's not." The word spread quickly among the survivors. For the first time, the Veyari began to believe these humans might truly stand a chance. Then, as if summoned by their defiance, the jungle answered. The night air split with an ear-shattering roar. Shadows surged through the tree-line, glowing eyes and jagged claws slicing the darkness. The Xyrrath had come. Every instinct told the Veyari to run, to hide, to abandon hope. Yet the humans stood firm. "Positions!" Commander Hale barked. Turrets whirred to life, drones launched overhead, and the soldiers leveled their rifles. Not a trace of fear showed in their movements. The Veyari cowered behind barricades, watching as the first of the Xyrrath burst into the open. Towering, armored beasts, their fangs dripping with saliva, their claws tearing gouges into the earth. They were nightmares incarnate, each one larger than a tank. And the humans charged them. It was madness. Absolute, undeniable madness. Yet as the night erupted into fire and thunder, as the first monster fell beneath a storm of bullets, flames, and detonations, the Veyari realized something they had never dared to hope. The Xyrrath could bleed, and if they could bleed, they could die, turning the hunt around. The first clash had proven what no one in the galaxy had dared to believe. The Xyrrath could be wounded. Yet one victory was not survival. The predators retreated into the jungle, and in the days that followed, the colony lived under a constant shadow. Every sound from the treeline felt like the hiss of death. The Veyari clung to their shelters, praying the humans' madness would not provoke further attacks. The humans, however, did not wait for the enemy to return. Commander Hale ordered his soldiers into the jungle before dawn. "We don't sit and hope. We hunt," he said, voice like steel. To the Veyari, it was unthinkable. To step into the domain of the Xyrrath was suicide, but to humans, it was strategy. The jungle swallowed them whole, dense, humid, alive with the chitter of unseen creatures. The air reeked of decay and rain. Every tree seemed to watch, every shadow to breathe. And somewhere in that suffocating wilderness, the Xyrrath stalked. The Veyari observers trembled, their drones hovering behind the humans, transmitting images back to the colony. What they saw left them both horrified and transfixed. Humans moved like predators themselves. They set traps of wire and spikes coated with venom harvested from local insects. They smeared mud and blood across their armor, masking their scent. They whispered to one another in hand signals, their eyes sharp, their rifles always angled toward the unseen. Hours passed before the inevitable came. The jungle erupted. A Xyrrath launched itself from the canopy above, claws flashing, jaws wide enough to swallow a manhole. The impact cracked the earth, scattering leaves and dust. The beast roared, shaking the air itself, then jerked violently as a dozen mines detonated beneath it. Flames burst upward. The predator shrieked, thrashing, only to be met by a volley of railgun rounds that punched through its hide. But even crippled, it charged. A human squad did not scatter. They roared back, an ear-splitting, primal shout, and surged forward. One soldier leapt onto the creature's back, plunging a blade into the gap of its armor. The others hammered it with fire, bullets, and grenades until, with a final bone-rattling crash, the beast collapsed. The Veyari watching could hardly breathe. They attacked it directly. They closed the distance. To them, it looked less like combat and more like a ritual of defiance. But the battle was far from over. The ground shook. More shadows slithered between the trees. The humans were surrounded. Dozens of Xyrrath, their glowing eyes glaring through the foliage, moved as one, an ambush perfected by centuries of predation. "Exactly what we wanted," Commander Hale said over comms. The Veyari gasped. "Wanted?" Then the trap sprung. Hidden turrets unfolded from the canopy. Nets charged with high-voltage electricity fired outward, ensnaring the advancing beasts. Explosives detonated in a chain, collapsing the ground into a pit lined with sharpened spikes. The jungle became a slaughterhouse. The humans didn't retreat. They advanced, weaving through chaos, picking off targets with precision. Their battle cries echoed over the roar of explosions. One soldier blasted heavy metal music through his comms, the alien rhythm thundering across the battlefield, further disorienting the predators. For the first time, the Xyrrath faltered. They had always been the hunters, confident in their superiority. But the humans met their savagery with greater savagery, their cunning with reckless brilliance. Still, victory came at a price. The Veyari feed showed a human torn apart, his armor shredded like paper. Another was struck by a claw, sent crashing into a tree with a sickening crunch. Yet even as they fell, their comrades dragged them back, fighting harder, shouting their names as rallying cries. There was no despair in their losses, only fury. The Veyari could not comprehend it. How could a species fight with such rage, even as their own bled out at their feet? By nightfall, the jungle lay scarred. Fires burned among shattered trees, and the bodies of Xyrrath littered the ground. At the center, towering above the carnage, lay an alpha, larger than the rest, its carapace shattered by coordinated fire, its throat torn open by explosives strapped to a human volunteer who had not survived. Commander Hale stood over the corpse, his armor blackened with ash, his visor cracked but still glowing. He raised his weapon high, and his soldiers roared in triumph. The Veyari watchers stared in silence. Their hearts pounded, their minds reeled. For the first time since the nightmare began, they believed. The humans had not just fought the hunters. They had become the greater predators. Madmen become legends. The jungle burned for days. Smoke rolled across the horizon, carrying with it the stench of charred flesh and scorched earth. The Veyari had never seen their world defiled in such a way, but to the humans, it was only the beginning. The Xyrrath had not been defeated. They had been provoked. Scouts reported larger packs moving through the forests, gathering with an intelligence that defied their animalistic appearance. The survivors whispered of an alpha beyond anything the humans had yet faced, a beast that commanded the others with a predator's cunning. It was coming, and it would strike at the heart of the colony. Commander Hale called the Veyari leaders together. His armor was still scarred, his face lined with exhaustion, but his voice carried the same unyielding strength. "You've seen what they can do," he said, "and you've seen what we can do. But we can't win this alone. You want to survive? Then you fight with us." The Veyari had never been warriors. Their hands had built cities, not weapons. But as they looked at the humans, bloodied, broken, yet still standing, they felt something shift inside them. If humans could face monsters with nothing but courage and fury, could they not do the same? For the first time, the Veyari took up arms. The humans trained them relentlessly. They taught them to fight in shadows, to strike and vanish, to set traps with precision and patience. The Veyari were clumsy at first, but desperation forged discipline. Their fear hardened into resolve. When the final assault came, they were ready. It began at dusk. The jungle went silent, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Then the ground trembled. Trees splintered. From the darkness, the Xyrrath emerged. Not in packs, but in a tide. Dozens, then hundreds, their claws gleaming, their roars shaking the walls of the Veyari capital. At their center loomed the Alpha, colossal and terrible, its hide etched with scars, its eyes glowing like molten fire. The Veyari faltered at the sight, but the humans did not. "Stand firm," Hale roared. His soldiers raised their weapons, their visors blazing red in the fading light. "Tonight we show them what madness can do." The battle exploded. The city became a war zone. Rail cannons thundered from rooftops, flamethrowers bathed the streets in fire, and explosive mines tore through the advancing hordes. Veyari fighters, once timid, now struck with lethal precision, darting through alleys, leading predators into traps. The Alpha crashed through the defenses like a living storm. It smashed barricades, shrugged off turret fire, and hurled soldiers aside like toys. Every step it took brought it closer to the city's heart. "On me," Hale shouted. He and his squad charged directly into its path. Rockets streaked upward, detonating against its armored hide. Snipers targeted its eyes, its joints, its scars. Still, it came on unstoppable. One soldier, a young human named Garza, broke from the line. Strapped with explosives, he sprinted toward the beast, screaming a battle cry that shook the Veyari to their core. The Alpha struck him down with a swipe of its claw, but a heartbeat later, fire engulfed its chest as the detonator triggered. The monster staggered, roaring in pain. The humans did not mourn in that moment. They pressed the attack. The Veyari, seeing such sacrifice, surged with fury of their own. For the first time in their history, they fought not as prey, but as predators. Their plasma fire raked the beast's wounds. Their blades pierced its joints. They had become more than survivors. The final blow came as Hale himself climbed the creature's back, his armor torn, his rifle empty. With a roar that echoed across the city, he drove a plasma blade deep into the base of its skull. The Alpha convulsed, screeched, and finally collapsed, shaking the earth as it died. Silence followed. The remaining Xyrrath, leaderless, broke. For the first time in recorded history, they retreated. The jungle swallowed them again, but their dominance was broken. The Veyari stood in stunned silence among the ruins of their capital, their bodies trembling, their hands still clutching weapons slick with blood. Slowly, their eyes turned to the humans. Scarred, bloodied, grieving their fallen, yet unbowed. The truth was undeniable. The humans had done the impossible. They had faced the galaxy's apex predators, and they had won. Word spread faster than light. Across the council worlds, the story grew in whispers and then in fear. The mad humans had defeated the Xyrrath. Civilizations that had once laughed at Earth now trembled. For if humans could destroy the predators that haunted the galaxy, what else might they be capable of? Elder Xyrrath, watching the dawn break over a city that still stood, said the words that would echo across generations. Only the mad dared fight monsters, and only humans dared to win.